to Corruption Must Go, ICPC's weekly television program. I am your host, Hawa Sani Garba. Over the years, there has been increased complaints by citizens regarding shoddy completion, non-completion, or outright non-execution of zonal intervention projects, otherwise known as constituency projects, in spite of huge budgetary releases by the federal government. The story is not so different with executive/capital projects. Following these complaints and armed by its enabling law, the Commission embarked on the tracking of some funded constituency and executive projects in order to ascertain proper and transparent execution and ensure that government and the people get value for money.
Fellow Nigerians, do you know that constituency projects are actually your projects? Do you know that constituency projects are funded by the federal government? Do you know that you can track release of constituency project funds for projects located in your constituency and follow up to know how they have been executed? Constituency projects happen because government does not want to leave any community out in development efforts. You have a responsibility to know what constituency project has been planned for your community, how much has been allocated for it, and whether value for money has been delivered. Take ownership of constituency projects located in your community. Protect them because they belong to you. Government knows about your needs and is planning for you. Government needs your help to ensure quality delivery. Know that constituency projects are actually your projects. Protect your constituency project. My constituency, my project.
For information on funds allocated to projects in your constituency, call 0800 2255 4272.
This message is from the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission and the National Orientation Agency.
The first and the second phases of the tracking exercise were conducted in 2019 and 2020 respectively across 28 states. Arising from the gains garnered in the exercise and the successes recorded, ICPC embarked on a third phase of the tracking. In today's edition, we shall be examining the findings and successes recorded in this third phase conducted in 16 states and the FCT. But first, Ruth Awodi is here with details of anti-corruption stories.
Welcome to this segment on Anti-Corruption Stories. I am Ruth Awodi. The out-of-court settlement proposed by a former registrar of the Joint Admission and Matriculation Board, JAMB, Professor Adedibu Ojerinde, who is alleged to be involved in a 5.2 billion naira fraud by ICPC, has collapsed. Ojerinde was arraigned before Honorable Justice Obiora Egoatu of Court 9, Federal High Court, Abuja, in July 2021 by ICPC for offences of corruption and fraud when he headed the National Examinations Council, NECO, and JAMB. The Commission filed an 18-count charge in which it accused Ojerinde of allegedly diverting 5.2 billion naira from the two agencies. Counsel to Ojerinde, Ibrahim Ishaku, SAN, at the resumed sitting, prayed the court to allow for a 24-hour window for both parties to conclude a plea bargain agreement, which was granted by the court. However, the plea bargain failed, following which the prosecution team moved for the trial to continue. His prayer was granted by the trial judge, prompting him to call the first prosecution witness to the witness box to explain his role as a private solicitor to Ojerinde when the alleged offences were committed. The witness, led in evidence by the prosecution team, told the court how he incorporated several companies and bought properties for the former JAM boss. Some of the properties were bought in the name of his law firm in Abuja, Lagos, and Ghana to hide their identity and ownership. The witness further told the court that 577,500 units of shares in Osanta Microfinance Bank at the cost of ₦1 per ordinary share were acquired for the accused, besides properties bought in the name of his younger brother, Alhaji Muri Lamidi, and Modern Concept Limited. He put the share capital of the bank at 70 million naira. On responses to questions from the series of documents tendered as exhibits, the witness was able to list out the shareholders and directors of some of the companies incorporated on the orders of the former NECO head. Even though he told the court that Ojerinde didn't appear as a director shareholder in many of the documents tendered, all the names were supplied to him by the accused. The court heard that the documents for the companies and houses were all transferred to Ojerinde through his sons and some directly after the completion of the transactions. Counsel to Ojerinde Ishaku asked for a new date to cross-examine the witness, as he told the court that he does not have all the documents tendered by the prosecution. The matter was then adjourned for the continuation of hearing. In another development, ICPC and the Coalition for Dialogue on Africa, CODA, have entered into a cooperation agreement on the implementation of the Common African Position on Asset Recovery, CAPA. The partnership will enable the two organizations to collaborate and push for the quick recovery of assets stolen from Africa. The chairman of ICPC, Professor Bolaji Owasonye, SAN, signed the cooperation agreement on behalf of the Commission, while the executive director of CODA and head of African Union High-Level Panel on Illicit Financial Flows, IFFs, Mrs. Suad Aden Usman, signed for the organization. CODA, which has been chaired by former African presidents, is currently being chaired by former Nigerian President Olusegun Obasanjo. Professor Owasonye, who expressed the Commission's delight in the cooperation agreement, commended the efforts of CODA in the execution of CAPA and recovery of stolen assets from Africa.
We welcome this collaboration and we appreciate the effort that you have made in your focus and your drive. Even though you have a very small secretariat, you have achieved some great things at the continental level in giving focus and traction to the areas of your mandate, resource mobilization and other issues that you are focused on.
Aden Usman explained that CODA was the special initiative of the African Union AU to support the implementation of CAPA in collaboration with the African Development Bank, ADB, and other partners, following its adoption by the Assembly of African Union Heads of State and Government at its 33rd session on 9th February 2020.
We have a few areas of focus, only three. One is domestic resource mobilization, and we have been zooming on to the stemming illicit financial flows. We have pushed that agenda to the point where we got in 2015 what we commonly call the special declaration on illicit financial flows of our assembly, of the African Union Assembly, which adopted the report of the high-level panel on illicit financial flows. We have had a series of resolutions in different forums on the continent and outside of the continent. And the last major piece we have pushed was, together with actually my dear brother, Professor Bolaji, is the Common African Position on Asset Recovery, which is also another decision and the only decision after 2015 that has made it to the Heads of State Summit.
Under the cooperation agreement, ICPC and CODA are to implement joint activities to facilitate and advance the mapping of strategies and action plan for CAPA implementation, strengthening systems for the detection and identification of African assets in foreign jurisdictions, and advocating for CAPA at national, regional, and global levels. That will be all on this segment. Corruption Must Go continues with Hawa. Stay with us.
I am a Nigerian, a highly cultured race. My culture abhors corruption, and with my integrity, a new Nigeria is possible. I say no to corruption today to build a future for my children. Join me and imbibe the culture of integrity to build a Nigeria of our dreams.
You are watching Corruption Must Go. One of the outcomes of the first and second phases of the exercises is that contractors who hitherto had abandoned projects or executed projects shaddily mobilized back to site to either complete such projects or ensure their excellent execution. The same is now being experienced in the third phase. From the published reports, the first phase had covered 12 states and 424 projects were tracked, while the second phase had 722 projects tracked across 16 states of the Federation. Today, we examine the third phase of the tracking initiative. As noted earlier, 16 states and the FCT were earmarked for the exercise with a total of 1,370 projects selected for tracking, while a total of 1,098 projects were tracked. What were the criteria for selection of projects to be tracked? What were the findings? What is the next line of action? We spoke with two members of CEPTG team on the major infractions that were uncovered.
Importantly, in project selection, first off, we focus on those sectors or the kind of projects that are most impactful to the most vulnerable members of the society. In this regard, the Commission focuses on about 5 to 6 thematic areas: education, healthcare, water supply, roads infrastructure, and agriculture. To some extent, power as well. And so in doing that, first, we select the projects, pre-select the projects for a particular phase. And this selection is not done just by the ICPC. We have collaborators, both state and non-state actors. So there's a steering committee that sits down to actually select the projects, basically. And this steering committee, led by ICPC, comprised of Office of the Accountant General of the Federation, Budget Office of the Federation, Bureau for Public Procurement, Nigerian Institute of Country Surveyors, and then we have non-state actors like Premium Times, International Center for Investigative Reporting. We have the PPDC, Private and Public Development Center, among others. So the steering committee, comprising of all these actors, come together, look at the projects pre-selected from the appropriations of particular years, and then decide on which projects to select for tracking, bearing in mind those focal sectors that I have mentioned earlier. However, even within the thematic areas, we also have budgetary threshold because of the capacity of human capacity now, so we can't take on all the projects. So we select those that basically look suspicious and those that so initially we have 50 million as the baseline. Any project above that, above that will be the one to be selected. But experiences have shown that most of the projects in which we found some transgressions are actually even projects that are less than that in terms of the value of the purse. So we have reviewed the threshold down to as low as even 10 million naira in the case of constituency project. In the case of executive project, it's still remaining 100 million naira and above. Then another criteria for selecting project for tracking in every particular phase is also the petitions that we receive. Because of the significance and importance of the work that the Commission has been doing in project tracking, goodwill. So a lot of people do write petitions to the Commission, requesting the Commission to look into one or two projects that are cited in their communities. Even members of the National Assembly themselves do write petitions, sometimes against the contractors or against the executing agency or against their predecessors as well. And we put all those together and go to the field for tracking.
In the course of the tracking exercise, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and the successes we have been able to achieve, we still have some pockets of challenges. For example, there is this lack of cooperation from the executing agencies, as the MDAs. They are supposed to cooperate with us because they are the one that executed the project. But you find out that when you invite them, or when we invite them to meet us during the tracking exercise, they try as much as possible to delay, such that what we have outlined 2 or 3 weeks to do, we are not able to achieve them within the time frame. It is only when we now threaten to use the power that we have that they cooperate. So that is major challenge we have, non-cooperation or deliberate non-cooperation of MDs, but we have a way around it. The second one we usually encounter is during the tracking exercise itself. You discover that there is no needs analysis on projects in certain communities or in certain areas. A community that has electricity, PHCN is working, you still see projects embedded in such community for solar. What do they need such projects for? It's waste of government fund, waste of resources. In another community, a local community, you see schools, dilapidated schools, where you see dozens of computers, dozens of laptops being embedded in such school, such that the principals or the headmaster will say they don't need these type of items. It is buildings they need. Another one is the sponsors themselves, some legislators, withholding empowerment projects because of politics. We all know that these projects are being sponsored by government, are being funded rather by government. So when you embed it in whatever MDAs, you try as much as possible when money is made available, you execute. When they purchase, when they buy, instead of distributing to the local communities, to the people, to the beneficiaries, they don't do that. They keep it in their own warehouse until 2 or 3 years later, when they are going for another political whatever. And again, such items may have started spoiling. So these are the challenges we encounter while doing this tracking exercise.
The infractions discovered during the third phase of the tracking exercise were not so much significantly different from the infractions already discovered in the first phase and the second phase. We found situations where you have conflict of interest, where the sponsor of the project happens to be the contractor as well. Then we have issues of misappropriation of public funds. We have issues of budget padding. We have issues of budget duplication, in the sense that Mr. A embeds a project or nominates a project to be executed by agency B. And the same Mr. A will also embed similar projects in agency C. In which case, you find out that it's only the one in one agency domiciled in agency A, perhaps, that could be executed. The other one, they just do something else with the money. So those are some of the infractions. And of course, we have situations where people domicile or carry projects, public projects, to their private either properties, companies or houses, and stuff like that. And we also have underperformance of contracts of the project. A contract that is worth, let's say, 300 million naira with all the specifications and all that, they will go and execute the project, but way below performance, below what is specified in the bill of quantities. And we also have cases of contract invoicing, over invoicing rather. That's inflation of the contract sum. So all these are some of the findings that we have discovered in phase 3.
During the phase 3 exercise, due to security concerns in some states, we had to step down some projects not to be tracked. However, as soon as security improves, we go back to such projects and track them. But when we say the next line of action, there are so many things we do. When we come back from tracking exercise, we do collation of reports. We look at what each team has been able to do, has been able to find. And we discover rather, that there are needs for us again to do further investigations on already tracked projects. So we send our officers back to the project location to go and retract, or to go and do one thing or the other. Now, as we are now, we are preparing for the next phase of the tracking exercise. For now, we have selected executive projects. What we are doing now in this quarter is executive project tracking. The first quarter of the year, we want to do executive project tracking, and we have selected projects. We've selected close to 600 projects. Aside that, we also requested for each project file from the MDAs that they should submit them to us. After submission, we are going to now analyze those projects. After that, we are submitting those projects to various states where we are going to track projects.
Very well so. Very well so. In fact, the accolades and gratitude and appreciation that we have, or the Commission has received from communities that have benefited from the work that the Commission is doing is robust. In fact, some projects, if not for the intervention of the Commission, definitely they wouldn't have been executed. Some communities that we went to actually even knew of the existence of the project only when ICPC stepped into the matter. Otherwise, they did not even know that this thing was supposed to be here. We had found situations where a project is budgeted for, contract awarded, and it just was not done.
It's a worthwhile exercise. It's a beautiful exercise. There are so many things that we have seen. And again, it's a collaborative effort. ICPC, other agencies that are involved. When we bring them together and we select projects and we go to various communities to track projects, you see that the communities, the beneficiaries are happy. We have also seen where the communities themselves started writing petitions against their own representatives that these projects have been abandoned for the past 3 years. And when we go there, we see what has happened. We invite whoever, either the executing MDAs or the contractor or the representative, and you see they go back and do whatever is needed to make sure that those projects are executed well. So it's a worthwhile project, it's a worthwhile program, and we have recovered money for government.
This is Corruption Must Go. The major outcome of the tracking exercise is that both the sponsors and MDAs responsible for the execution of constituency and executive projects are aware that ICPC is watching and there is no hiding place for defaulters. ICPC's message to the communities where the projects are cited is simple. 1. Protect and monitor the projects that government has put in your community to make life better for you. If you are not satisfied with the project, report to ICPC on our toll-free numbers showing on your screen. ICPC needs all the support it can get to address the many questions of integrity, transparency, and accountability in government business, thereby uprooting and eliminating corruption in them. That's our message on this week's edition. Join us every Wednesday at 3:30 p.m. on NTA Network for new editions of the program. Follow us on our social media handles showing on your screen. Bye for now.